Greetings, fellow survivors, and welcome back to another episode of the Dino Arkives. I'm Havoc with the HGC YouTube gaming channel, and in this video, we're going to be talking about the Beelzebufo. We're going to be going over its spawn maps, we're going to be talking about its utilities, we're going to be talking about how to tame it, how to breed it, and then at the end, I'm going to judge it on a scale of its overall usefulness compared to all the other dinos in Ark. And that scale system works on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being not very useful, to 10 being extremely useful. So if you agree or disagree with the rating that I give it, I would love to hear the reasons why down in the comments section. And your comments might really actually help out other players who might not trust me. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching. The Beelzebufo can be found on 4 out of the 5 available Ark maps: the Island, the Center, Ragnarok, and Aberration. They're very common in swamp biomes, and they're pretty easy to spot. You'll either see them hopping around on the land or swimming in the water. The Beelzebufo has 2 attacks, both of which inflict melee damage and torpor. While performing its primary attack, the frog will stick its tongue straight out, while its secondary attack is more of a horizontal swipe. Its secondary horizontal attack does more damage than the primary, but it's more of a close-range attack. The amount of torpor inflicted is 3 times the amount of damage dealt, so the higher its melee damage, the more torpor it can dish out, but from my experience, you'll probably end up killing the target dino before it gets tranked out anyway. The Beelzebufo doesn't have a lot of health and isn't ideal for taming compared to trank darts or arrows, but against enemy players, the frog can really mess someone up who has low fortitude. The giant frog is probably most well known for its ability to collect cementing paste from the bugs that gather around corpses of dead creatures, typically in swamps. To do this, you simply kill a creature and then just hang out until the bugs fly over to eat the corpse. You can then use the Beelzebufo's primary or secondary attack to kill and obtain the cementing paste from the bugs. They are also pretty good at harvesting chitin from creatures like the Aranio and Pulmonoscorpius. Another notable aspect worth mentioning about the giant frog is that it's amphibious, so it can function fairly well on both land and in the water. On land, it can jump great distances, and if you put points into its speed attribute, you can get the frog to jump really far, which will allow you to cover ground fairly quickly. While in the air, it will recharge its stamina, and since it can jump pretty long distances, it also has a resistance to fall damage. Underwater, the frog is naturally pretty fast, but it doesn't have a sprint function, so you'll be stuck at one fairly fast speed. The Beelzebufo can be picked up by an Argentavis or larger bird for dropping and taming in a private pen. If you do not have access to a bird that can carry the frog, it would then be advisable to lure the frog out of the swamp in order to tame it in a safer area. If you've been playing Ark for any substantial amount of time, you know that swamps are very dangerous and unforgiving areas for taming creatures in. Once you get the frog to an ideal location, it'll probably be hopping around a bit, so you can bola the frog if you like to make it a little easier to trank out. Once it's knocked out, you'll want to make sure to have a few narcotics on hand to keep it unconscious through the taming process. Its favorite food is Pulmonoscorpius kibble, which can be made at the cooking pot or industrial cooker for 1 Pulmonoscorpius egg, 3 fiber, 1 long grass, 2 mejoberry, 1 prime meat jerky, and 1 water. If you prefer not to use kibble, its next favorite food is raw mutton, then raw prime meat, then raw prime fish meat. You can also use the cooked version of these different types of meat, which will produce a lower and less ideal taming effectiveness. I recommend keeping an ovis on standby to kill for its mutton after allowing the frog to starve to around half of its food capacity. Once the giant frog is tamed, you will need a saddle to ride it. The saddle can be unlocked at level 40 and can be built right in your inventory or in a smithy for 5 cementing paste, 95 fiber, 170 hide, and 30 wood. You can breed a male and female Beelzebufo by putting them in a small underwater enclosure and enabling them to wander in their radial menus. It will take about 3 minutes before the female will lay an egg, which cannot be picked up or tampered with. It will take a long while before the egg hatches, so look at its HUD and notice the amount of time left for it to incubate. Set an alarm and come back for when the incubation timer reaches 0. When the timer reaches 0, the egg will hatch and you'll see a tadpole come out of it. So go up to it and imprint on it, name it, put meat in its inventory, and don't forget to go into its radial menu and disable wandering. Stick around for a while and keep putting meat into its inventory until you're able to put at least 5 stacks into it. If you forget to keep the tadpole fed, it will die fairly quickly. Once you have a bunch of food in its inventory, take a look at its HUD and notice how much time until it wants care. Set an alarm on your phone and come back once that timer reaches 0. Once the timer depletes, you will then have another chance to imprint on the baby and increase its stats even further. It may want to go for a swim, it may want to cuddle, or it may want a random type of kibble. If it asks for a type of kibble that you aren't able to procure for it, you will no longer get to imprint on it. If you do have the type of kibble that it wants, put it in the 0 slot of your tool belt and feed it to the growing frog. If you successfully imprint on the tadpole, notice the wants care timer again and set another alarm for the next time it wants care. Repeat the process until imprinting reaches 100%, or until the frog becomes fully mature. The Beelzebufo gets a 5 out of 10 on the overall usefulness scale. It can travel pretty well on land, and in the water, its attack is a nightmare to enemy players in PvP. It can take fall damage like a monster, and most importantly, it's a decent way to get cementing paste and shitten. Some Ark players swear that the giant frog is the ultimate way to acquire large amounts of cementing paste, but on most maps I think you'll find that raiding beaver dams is far more lucrative, which makes the frog's specialty a bit redundant. It also doesn't have a whole lot of health, and its weight carrying capacity is also on the weaker end. Like the baryonyx, the versatility of the Beelzebufo is a blessing and a curse. It's good at a variety of things, but not really a master at anything, which means the giant frog is not an essential creature to have in a player's arsenal in most cases. So, do you think 5 out of 10 is a fair rating on the Beelzebufo's overall usefulness? Please let me know in the comments section, and I hope you'll scope out the next Dino Arkive, where we will be discussing the Brontosaurus.